In May 2005, two brothers from Southampton travelled to Africa to tackle AIDS and poverty. The challenge? To kick a football 250 miles in 10 days. The aim? To raise £10,000 for an AIDS orphanage. The location? Malawi. Malawi, the warm heart of Africa, is a place of striking contrasts. For such a small country, its diverse landscape encompasses the beauty of a whole continent. Surprisingly few Western tourists have discovered its scenic charm. But for the 12 million people who live here, this natural wealth conceals an unpalatable truth. Their nation is overshadowed by the twin spectres of poverty and disease. A staggering 1 in 7 people are believed to be infected by HIV or AIDS in Malawi, and overall life expectancy is less than 40 years. In the face of such hardship, the people of Malawi are generous and welcoming. As a people, they also have a passion that brings them joy and hope. It is a passion for football. Steve and Pete Fleming are among the billions of football fans worldwide with a common passion that transcends people groups and cultures. The brothers recognized in this phenomenon an opportunity for a life-changing endeavor in southern Africa. Their plan is to kick a football 250 miles from Lilongwe to Mzuzu in 10 days.
I'd been thinking about doing a charity challenge for a while, but I wanted to do something a little bit different, and specifically to use football, my favourite sport, to try and make a difference for some of the world's poorest people. So we came up with the crazy idea of kicking a football over a long distance, something that was utterly unique, and the aim was to raise money, raise awareness of the crisis in Malawi, and to make as much positive difference as we could.
Sports scientist Pete seeks the advice of the British Olympic Medical Institute, who conduct lactate threshold and VO2 max tests to help develop a specific training regime for the brothers.
The challenge involves us covering over 250 miles in temperatures of over 30 degrees centigrade and at an altitude of 1,000 metres above sea level. The Olympic Medical Institute advised us that during the challenge we would have to consume a minimum of 8 to 10 litres of water a day, and that from the start we would have to pay close attention to our feet to avoid multiple blisters. And the fact that we were kicking a football the whole way not only increased our energy expenditure, but it also gave us an uneven stride pattern. So with every kick being roughly 5 metres to keep the ball under reasonable control, we were looking at completing over 80,000 kicks.
Spurred on by the Institute's involvement, the brothers spend months pounding the pavements of Southampton and Cambridge. As the weeks roll by, the fitness levels increase, and the Fleming brothers are soon running over 80 miles a week. April 2005, and with a challenge just a month away, the teams step up their fundraising and media campaign. With raffles and auctions, speeches at local churches and schools, and national press coverage, the £10,000 fundraising target is finally achieved. But perhaps the most exciting development in the build-up to the challenge is still to come. With just 1 week to go, crew member and singer-songwriter Dave Light teams up with Pete to write a charity single. The song is hastily written, and 2 days later the boys are in the studio.
Here we are in the studio of friend and musical genius Phil Lecheminance, who is offering to produce our Kick for Malawi theme tune today. He's just preparing the way to lay down some guitar tracks, which is all very exciting.
Record producer Phil Lecheminance of 316 Media is charged with the task of turning it into a hit. Within days, the Kick for Malawi song hits the airwaves, playing out to thousands of listeners on local radio and over the speakers at Southampton's final league game of the season against Manchester United. Much to the boys' disappointment, the charity song doesn't help the Saints avoid relegation. With dreams of pop stardom put on hold, it's time for the brothers and their support crew of friends and family to fly out to Malawi and begin their daunting challenge.
Ladies and gentlemen, as the captain just said, we are now approaching our destination.
On arrival in the capital city of Lilongwe, Pete takes time to sort out the resources that the team will need for the challenge ahead.
Okay, right, what we're doing now, we're just getting all the t-shirts from the FA. We've got Malawi t-shirts, we've got stuff from Saints, various stuff from Saints, we're getting all the Lucas Aid ready. This is all the stuff for our feet, and we get a few blisters come along. Just down here we've got some football, so we're getting everything together. Linda and Srini are getting all the food, so we're just sorting stuff out, ready for the big kick-off tomorrow.
At their hotel, the team are met by Martha Konji, their Action Aid representative in the capital. Martha informs the team that the challenge has already made the national press in Malawi, and that tomorrow a press conference will be held at Lilongwe's Sivo Stadium. From there, the brothers will begin their challenge, kicking off from the centre spot on the pitch.
Okay, so that was Martha, our Action Aid representative. They've done some fantastic things for us. They've sorted out our whole timetable. The General Secretary of the Football Association of Malawi is coming here tonight, and hopefully to be kicking off, doing the first kick from the centre spot tomorrow morning. And what we're going to do now, we're going to be having a debrief session just to plan who's doing what. For example, who's in charge of water, who's in charge of food, who's in charge of the camera. But so yeah, it's all coming together very nicely. We got in the national press yesterday as well, which is fantastic.
The team are met by Mark and Henry from Land and Lake Safaris. Henry is to be their driver for the duration of the challenge and will become an important new addition to the team. With the introductions made, it's time to pack up and head towards the stadium for the press conference. The team is delighted to hear the Kick for Malawi single playing on their arrival. It seems the challenge and the song have attracted a great deal of interest in Malawi's small but vociferous press.
Yeah, my name is Mark Sprong. I'm doing the logistics, I think it's called, for the charity, the Kick for Malawi charity. So I must admit it's the first time that I've had anything like this. The first time we've ever had a challenge like this. We do a lot of other challenges like cycling, bike rides, walking and this sort of thing, but first time that we've had somebody kicking a football to Zuzu, which has caused quite a stir in the, the circles that we move in.
Journalists from national newspapers, television and radio attend the press conference. After a brief introduction, Roosevelt Mpanganjira, General Secretary of the Football Association of Malawi, addresses the press. He states that football can be a vital tool in helping to educate the masses in the fight to prevent the spread of HIV and AIDS. Steve addresses the gathered crowd on behalf of the team and focuses specifically on the project. Their ambition is clear: to dribble football all the way to the St. John's Orphanage in Mazuzu, raising funds and promoting AIDS awareness in the process. Following the press conference, Action Aid holds a drinks reception. The team mingle with the press and network with charity workers and football officials. It proves to be an excellent opportunity to distribute copies of the charity single to national radio DJs.
Now all they've got to do is run 250 miles.
The crowd move out onto the pitch in preparation for the big kick-off. There is time for one more television interview before Roosevelt Mpanganjira strikes the first of many kicks towards the city of Mzuzu, 250 miles to the north.
Toilet breaks going to be an essential factor in this trip. There's Pete coming back from the bush. Feeling fresh? Empty. Hello.
It isn't long before the first group of excited locals approaches the van. They are eager to greet the visitors and invite them to their village. Henry explains that they are only passing through, but the concept of a quick chat is an alien one to these friendly and welcoming people. 2 hours into the challenge, it's time to say goodbye to the officials from the Football Association, whose vehicle has been protecting the runners on the busy roads of the capital. The officials thank the team and express their desire to work with them in the future.
National Malawi player there.
Yeah.
Okay guys, here we are. We've done about 25k now, so first day in, it's gone as well as we could hope for really, probably better than the fantastic launch event they organised.
After just over 5 hours running in relay, Pete and Steve finished the first of 10 back-to-back marathons. The rest of the team joined them on their final 2-mile leg of the day. Everyone is surprised at how quickly the brothers have run, but it soon becomes clear that they have been working to a deadline. They can't afford to miss the FA Cup final between Manchester United and Arsenal.
Okay, the start of day 2 on the road. It's about just gone 7 a.m. Again, it's a good day for running. Very cloudy, shouldn't be too hot, and also today we're starting a lot earlier, so it should be a lot better. Crew are in reasonably good spirits, are they not?
Yeah, we're happy.
Tobacco is one of Malawi's biggest exports, but sometimes the bumpy roads prevent it from getting very far. This obstacle also provides an unusual challenge for Henry the driver and an amusing spectacle for the team. But for the hundreds of children along the route, the sight of 2 white men kicking a football along the highway is an intrigue that has to be investigated. These children are very poor. They have nothing but the tattered clothes on their backs. For them, a group of white people, even white people with a football, is not so much an exciting interlude to their day as an economic opportunity. And they trail the van expectantly for several miles. Many of them will be orphans who live with their extended families in the makeshift shelters beyond the roadside. Others will be the main earners in their households, often caring for relatives too sick from AIDS to emerge from their beds. For these children, the future is not the prospect of an education, a good career, or even a happy life. Their future is survival. As day 2 comes to a close, Steve is again joined by the majority of the crew for the final mile warm-down.
How are you feeling, Stephen?
Better than I did a few hours ago.
This morning, the team awakened to the news that the Kick4 Malawi Challenge has made a variety of national newspapers, including the Malawi Nation and the Daily Times. As Steve begins the first 2-mile stretch of the day, Pete takes the opportunity to present sweets to children from a nearby village. It's a treat these children will not soon forget. Just 6 miles into the day, the runners are chased by some local children, this time from one of the many mission-maintained schools in the area. Western visitors are a rare occurrence in these parts, and spotting the boys running with a football is enough to cause the kids to leave their classrooms in droves to greet them. Five miles further on, children from another school charge out of their lessons to meet the team. The headmaster and hundreds of his pupils are delighted when the crew present them with a brand new leather ball, donated by the English Football Association. These balls are used just once in the Premiership, and then thrown away. But here, on this dusty school pitch, it will be used, reused, patched up and used again, probably for years to come.
Just the reception we received going along the street is just incredible. The people are so friendly, always got a smile on their face, and the kids are ecstatic, I think is the word, on ACS. And the school visit just there was incredible. Hundreds of children came out and we gave them the football, which was great.
Hello, hello, hello.
Back on the road, crew member John McCarthy makes friends with a group of school children intent on improving their English.
Hello, hello. Hello.
Malawi was formerly the British protectorate of Nyasaland and achieved its independence in 1964. Although English is still the official language, outside the towns and cities it is rarely spoken. Instead, the crew rely on friendly gestures and Henry's fluency in the 5 tribal dialects to communicate their message.
Hello. 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 We like football. We like football. Yeah. We love football. We love football. Why are you trying them?
You enjoying it?
Oh yes, I'm enjoying.
A unique task.
Oh yes, it is. First of its kind.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it.
Excellent,
And,
excellent.
Yeah, the runners are doing a very, very good job.
Thank you.
Today, when doing one of the final stretches, me and Dave were out. We were approached by some locals who came up to us and asked us. They'd heard rumours that we were Rio Ferdinand and Gary Neville.
When they saw Dave, they thought it was Gary Neville.
Right, start of day 4. You ready? Have a word with Steve.
Day 4 is going to be a hot one. It's about came up to 8 o'clock. Peter's just setting off. You look down the road now. See how it goes.
Early on in the day, problems for the runners begin to mount. Steve's knee problem has not diminished, and Pete's foot is now giving him ongoing pain. These injuries are cause for concern for the crew. The medical team of Linda and Srini Bandi prepare to be on full alert. With 6 days to go to complete the challenge, a serious injury now would be disastrous. Pete's temporary problems are quickly forgotten as a large group of schoolchildren join him for the next few miles. This all-girl group demonstrates the diverse appeal that football has in Africa, with a display of impressive skills.
Everywhere we went, it was obvious that the people just absolutely love football. In every school, village or town, they went crazy when they saw us running with the ball, and some of the kids would literally run with us for several miles. We saw how the sport can capture the imagination, and it gave us real hope that we can use football as a vehicle for health education and awareness, and help to make a long-term positive change.
The team passed the 100-mile point with children from a local village. They have been running with the boys for over an hour. John Fleming entertains the children by showing pictures from his digital camera. Another group of children complete the final 2 miles of the day with the runners. Their stamina is incredible, but to be expected, given that their nearest water supply is over 5 miles away. These children are used to walking long distances. Cameraman Dave, a history teacher by profession, decides to reward their efforts with pencils and paper. He's not sure how many of these children will actually use them in school. Although primary education is available here, secondary schooling is expensive and uncommon in the rural areas. The brothers have reached the town of Kasungu, and before kicking off for the day, the team are visited by young people from a number of local youth groups. The meeting has been arranged by Action Aid, and the team enjoy a brief kickabout in the hotel car park. This is followed by a presentation of t-shirts and a football.
And also the football is for your...
Just as the boys leave to start the day's running, another group of young people arrive. The team is operating to a tight schedule, but the disappointed faces of those who have travelled miles on foot to meet them force a rethink.
They're on time. Should be enough, I think.
There you go. Bye. Thank you very much.
No, we must go. We have a lot to do.
It's going to be an interesting one. We just had a reasonably late start because we met some kids back at the Kasungu Inn. We gave some shirts out, and then the girls' youth club turned out and we were driving off, and the look of anguish on the face of the man who realised that his girls were going to get a shirt made us stop and gather some more shirts and give them out. And we're now here, and I'm going to get cracking. I'm trying to get side as I go past. So,
After 2.5 hours, the runners reach a school in the foothills of northern Malawi, where they experience their most enthusiastic welcome yet.
Hello, how are you?
Hello.
Fine.
The word "shuk" is a colloquial greeting in the local dialect of Chichewa. The children are excited to share this exchange of communication in their own language.
The whole school is here. Hello.
Steve and Dave are ushered into the school to meet the headmaster, where they sign the guest book and present him with a football and some stationery.
We've got a few pencils and pens that you can use as well.
Eventually, the team make their way back across the crowded playing field.
Oh, what's that you got? You got a homemade ball there, look, Pete.
Oh, wow.
Then it's the turn of the school prefects to use some unorthodox methods to encourage the younger pupils back to lessons.
How to get rid of some kids. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Back on the road, the boys continue at an impressive pace. Towards the end of the day, as tiredness sets in, Steve takes the first tumble of the challenge.
I foolishly was trying to go down a hill at walking pace, which is the main cause of the problems, which you shouldn't do, because I got frustrated and booted it and I went in the ditch. And I'm trying to get out of the ditch. Again, foolishly put my wrist onto a sharp thorn, which went right in. I've yanked it out, and I'm now receiving treatment.
Painful, look painful. A massive great big stick in his arm.
It's really big, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cheers, friend. Yeah.
The day's finishing line is opposite a small market. The team take this opportunity to negotiate a price for some fruit and vegetables to keep up their vitamin levels. As they travel back to Kasungu in the driving rain, the team is glad to discover that the Champions League final between Liverpool and AC Milan is being screened at the hotel. They are about to discover just how much football means to people in Malawi. With AC Milan 3-0 up at half-time, Liverpool make a remarkable comeback. The game is 3-3 after extra time, and as the penalty shootout unfolds, the atmosphere in the hotel bar is electric.
It's really a game today. We expect it to win.
Okay, here we are, Wednesday evening. What a game we've just witnessed. Liverpool, AC Milan. Penalties coming up. Obviously, half-time 3-0. We thought it was all over. The atmosphere in here has been amazing. The boys is looking forward to the penalties.
It's been an incredible match, fantastic game to watch. It could go either way, 50-50, but whatever happens, the place is going to erupt. Really great atmosphere in here, fantastic watching football in Malawi. They're really passionate, and it's a European Cup tie, you know, nothing to do with Africa, but they're still really enthusiastic in it. It's fantastic.
As morning dawns, with slightly sore heads, the boys face the reality of another 26 miles on the road.
This is the start of day 6. It's probably the most overcast day we've had. There's even a bit of a chill in the air, I'd say, a little bit of a breeze. Probably the day I least feel like going out running today. We had a bit of a late night last night, stayed up with Liverpool. Didn't get to bed till midnight and rush again at 5:45, so a little bit tired, but got to get it done. So Pete's just about to start, and here he is now.
Day 6. Here we go. On the marathon.
As the boys enter the mountains of northern Malawi, the terrain becomes treacherous and hard going. The runners seem to cope well, but the support crew are struggling to keep up the pace.
I'm just catching my breath at the moment. I've just been out on the road with Pete, and probably did
2 miles in about 15 minutes, and Pete absolutely broke me, striding away. And I thought I was fit, but unbelievable to do that 6 times a day. Well, 7 times a day, really. Awesome feat, awesome.
My third 2 mile of the day, and it's easily the most treacherous we've had. Like, really steep slope going down that way, which you don't want. Other side, pretty much a cliff face. Well, not a cliff face, but very, very steep indeed. So, had to walk some parts of it, but luckily I found quite a bumpy path to the side of the road for a lot of it, which is okay. But still feeling very good. Legs feeling very fresh, which is extremely encouraging.
The team are now entering the V-Fire forest, the largest man-made forest plantation in the world. After 18 miles, the group experienced their first flat tyre, which Henry quickly replaces to get them back on the road. It's a minor inconvenience for the team's progress, but Henry will have to travel 70 miles back to Kasungu tonight in order to get the punctured tyre repaired. After Steve completes the final few kicks of the day, the team head for Luwawa Forest Lodge, where the boys enjoy their first bath of the trip.
I've just had a bath in here. It was wonderful. It may not look that good, the water's a bit murky. That's not from me, I wasn't actually that money for that. That is actually the colour of the water. The bath doesn't actually roll, so I've just had a shower with the plug-in and waited till it filled up. And it was amazing, first bath I've had. It's been
The team's morale is enhanced by the news that today is to be a rest day. The Flemings are running ahead of schedule and decide to take advantage of Luwawa's tranquil surroundings. As evening dawns, a group of local villagers come to the lodge to meet and perform for the Kick for Malawi team.
Okay, start of day 8. Steve's already on the road. It's looking like it's going to be a very hot one and a very hilly one, so it could be an interesting day. The crew in good spirits after a lovely little break.
As the brothers' story continues to gain national press coverage, people begin to recognize the brothers.
My name is Rochiro. I'm working here at the Vipsha Plantations Division. Yeah, and I saw you on TV Malawi. I understand you are traveling from Longo to Mzuzu. Yeah. That is nice. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, keep it up, eh?
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
I'm very happy to see such type of things, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. What a legend.
Have a nice journey.
The team stop to buy sugarcane from a roadside supplier. In the meantime, Steve is busy making a potentially fatal acquaintance.
The rest of the team had stopped off to buy some sugarcane by the side of the road, and I kept going as we sometimes did on my own. It was late in one of the days and I was pretty tired. My head was down, I was focused on the ball, just getting on with it. And out of the corner of my eye, suddenly I saw this dark shape in the middle of the road, or just in front of me. I sort of jumped over it, the ball carried on rolling, and I stopped to turn around, and there was sort of a 3-foot snake in the road, curled up in the sun, and so I was completely shocked. Another foot and I was trodden on it. I stood there looking at it. I wanted the rest of the team to see it, so I waited for about 5 minutes. Gradually they came, and as they arrived it started to slither off into the undergrowth. Henry, the driver, managed to identify it as a black mamba, which, if it had bitten me, could have been potentially deadly. They'd have had to get me to a hospital within 2 hours, and the nearest one was approximately 2 hours away.
As the running for day 8 draws to a close, the boys' fitness continues to go from strength to strength. For the first time they break 4.5 hours for the marathon. On arrival at Casito, a small lodge reserved for forest workers and government officials, the support team head for the kitchen to cook the evening meal.
Okay, here we are, day 9, 8:30 in the morning. Time to start.
We will get within about 1 mile of the finish line today. We'll save the last mile so we can do the finish when the crowds are there.
The boys continue to keep up a hard pace. It is beginning to look like the team will reach Mazuzu a day before the planned arrival time. Just 20 kilometers from Mazuzu, the boys pass the picturesque village of Kaunda. The team decide to pay the village a visit and donate the football that had been used for the first 4 days of the challenge. Henry, the team's driver, rushes to help with translation.
We're just going to present the ball.
Maybe there could be some translation or something.
Yeah, definitely. If you go front.
The team are greeted by Mr. Kaunda, the village's chief and namesake, and another local man. Henry explains the challenge, and the pair seem astonished and delighted with their gift. The poverty in this region of Malawi is marked, with educated workers from the towns taking the majority of jobs on the forest plantation. Opportunities for the local men are few and far between. The village is a collection of poorly maintained huts, and children play barefoot in the dust. Despite their poverty, the village leader reciprocates with a welcome gift of his own, a live chicken.
Just giving us a chicken.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Thank you very much.
Present pens as well.
Yeah. There's a paper.
Chicken.
For children to write.
Unbelievable.
Does this happen in India?
Maybe, yeah. But I have never come across that.
A little bit of trouble tying up the chicken.
Okay, Mr. Kaunda.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
15 miles later, the runners reach the outskirts of Mazuzu and finish the day just 1 mile from the roadblock, where they hope to be greeted by helpers from the St. John's AIDS project. Back at Casito Lodge, the group decide to present their transient team member to a woman in a neighbouring village. Yet again, Henry plays an important role in the presentation.
Can she untie his feet? And let him run?
At the dawn of the final day of the challenge, the team are set for their busiest day yet. In addition to reaching the finishing line, the group are also scheduled to visit 3 projects. Ekwendeni, a project run by the Presbyterian Church of East Africa and sponsored by Tearfund, the St. John's AIDS project, where the money raised will be going, and the SOS Children's Village. The day begins visiting Ekwendeni, just outside Mazuzu. The site runs as a community for orphaned children and includes a secondary school, hospital and theological college. The emphasis of the teaching is on tackling the issue of AIDS. The Kick 4 Malawi crew are shown round by the Reverend Evans Jira, who takes the team into his office to highlight the problems surrounding AIDS in Malawi. He explains the myths and cultural traditions which form some of the biggest obstacles to overcoming the situation. He states, for example, that people have been led to believe that sleeping with a young child can make them immune to AIDS, and that sex with a virgin can cure them of the disease. Such lies and inaccuracies are escalating the problem and continue to highlight the desperate need for further education. John Fleming takes the opportunity to present the Reverend with a football and some shirts.
So, I mean, it's a small gift, but, you know.
The Reverend then leads the team to visit the Ekwendeni Hospital, where the receptionist recognises them from Malawi television.
On the TV, yes.
With almost complete reliance on charitable donations, the hospital is running low on resources. The matron is therefore delighted when Dr. Linda Bandy hands over some surplus medical equipment that the boys have not used. With over 100,000 Malawians dying of AIDS-related illness every year, and less than 2,000 nurses in the entire country, hospitals are disastrously understaffed.
Thank you very much.
The boys head to the day's starting point and prepare to cover the final mile of their epic challenge. At the Mazuzu roadblock, the team are greeted by around 50 children and volunteers from the St. John's project, along with officials from both Action Aid and the Football Association of Malawi. The volunteers from St. John's have prepared welcome banners detailing how the money raised by Kick for Malawi will benefit their project. Despite the welcome, the Flemings discover that their challenge is still 5 miles from completion, and the waiting crowd decide to join them on the trek to the orphanage.
Just arrived here, quite a good crowd to see us, a few banners, and we're going to just walk up to the project now, about 5 miles, a bit further than we thought, but yeah, that's how it goes.
Although psychologically unprepared for an extra 5 miles on the road, the team are delighted and entertained by the enthusiasm of the young volunteers. The march to St. John's is a joyful celebration of the end of the challenge. But it also serves a different purpose. The songs the young people are singing are designed to warn and educate the surrounding population. More and more people join in as the march progresses.
Your arrival, Cecile.
The road is soon packed and a police escort is required. Pete takes the opportunity to talk to Anderson Zimba, Vice President of the Football Association of Malawi, to discuss the state of football in the country. Zimba explains that the major problem is the severe lack of funding, coaches and equipment. This, coupled with past corruption, has stunted the development of the national game. As the group approach the St. John's project, the atmosphere reaches fever pitch, and the Fleming brothers are greeted by dancers with welcome branches. As the dancing continues, they meet the children who will ultimately benefit from their 10-day run. The money raised will be used for a variety of purposes. There is a half-built workshop for teaching children trades, such as carpentry and metalwork. The building was abandoned when funds ran out. Now it will be finished. There is a toilet block that had been destroyed by a falling tree, leaving the children sharing very limited and primitive facilities. The toilet block will be repaired. A new position for an HIV and AIDS education officer in the Mzuzu area will be funded for the next 2 years. The rest of the money will provide some of the children with a chance to learn. While primary education is free to all, from the age of 11, school fees are introduced, which exclude all but the most wealthy.
Get shown round at John's project after I'm going to describe as an overwhelming welcome.
The leader of St. John's shows the team around some of its buildings and facilities, before leading them to an assembled crowd for a series of brief presentations. Anderson Zimber talks of his hope that football can play a part in the fight against AIDS, while Steve speaks on behalf of Kick for Malawi. During the speeches, the children sit patiently. The coughs you hear are evidence of the sickness caused by poverty and disease. Many of these children have always been HIV positive. Without the vital antiretroviral treatment they require, most of them will lead short and painful lives. Fortunately, there is help at hand, not only from the wealth of volunteer workers, but also from foreign donations and fundraising initiatives like Kick for Malawi. Slowly and with hard work, things are beginning to change. After the presentations, it is time for the obvious finale, a game of football. With children and volunteers keen to play, and the manager of a local team on hand to referee, Steve and Pete agree to captain the opposing teams. Pete wins the toss, meaning Steve's team has to play without shirts. The match ends in a hard-fought draw, with Steve opening his goal-scoring account on African soil. The team say farewell to the children and volunteers at St. John's and head straight to the SOS Children's Village just a mile away. Part of a worldwide organisation with a wealth of sponsors including FIFA, the well-built surroundings of SOS are in stark contrast to those of St. John's. The project organisers welcome the team and have prepared a formal introduction. The main focus of the village is to offer a permanent home in a family-style environment for children who have been orphaned by HIV or AIDS. Every child is given a mother, so that they have someone to turn to at all times. She is entrusted with up to 7 children in her care in a designated family house, enabling boys and girls of various ages to grow up together as brothers and sisters. The village takes responsibility for the children until they achieve self-reliance.
This is another cluster of houses. Right. So we have 5 here, 5 there, and 5 here.
At the end of the brief visit, Steve presents the children's village with some footballs and kit to round off an exhausting day.
What a day! Incredible. Don't actually feel tired, but I'm sure we will sort of be fairly exhausted after all that, and it'll hit us when we get to the beach. But it's been one exciting moment after the next. Exhilarating stuff.
Round of applause for the runners.
Well done. Well done.
Over the next few days, as they rest in the relative luxury of Makuzi Beach and Liwonde National Park, the team reflects on the remarkable events of the last few weeks. They have raised £14,000 to be invested in valuable, life-changing projects. They have been able to gain considerable exposure for the idea of using football to effect positive change in the developing world. And this has resulted in the Football Association of Malawi committing itself to further work in the fight against HIV and AIDS. But in the long term, what difference have they really made? They have touched just a handful of lives, and once the money is spent, will the investment just dry up? Will the good work they have started be left unfinished, like the many half-built houses they have seen along the way? The brothers have seen enough to change their minds. Malawi is one of the 10 poorest countries in the world, but it has real cause for hope. It is rich in resources with an industrious population that embraces life. They just need the chance to break free from the shackles of extreme poverty. As they prepare to return home, it is clear that Kick for Malawi is just the start of a much greater challenge ahead.
Lying in my bed at night, thinking about the orphans, thinking about their plight. What can we do to make things right? Are we gonna change it overnight? Don't paint a picture of a broken world if you're not prepared to get your hands dirty. Let's make a miracle happen now. Join in and be counted. Look at their faces now. Hear them calling out. They need our help today to wipe the tears away. Give them hope. So kick for Malawi now. Kick for the children now. We're kicking far away to make a better day. Kick for Malawi. We're kicking for Malawi. like all things together. Let us live the dreams we speak. Oh, let us smile with every sunrise. Let us dance to every beat. From the long way to Susie, we're talking.